Are you tired of playing the same boring chord progression for every song? Hello, my name is Emily Vasquez. I'm a piano player and I've been recording my progress of my learning path for music theory. In this video, I'm going to show you how to best understand the basic language of music, but also improvise a simple boring chord progression to a more advanced level under 10 minutes. Let's begin with the basics. Each note in the piano has a different frequency in the air that vibrates called hertz. These hertz help us identify which note it is. In the piano, there's white and black keys. The white keys are named A through G and the black keys are called accidentals. For example, the accidental of C is C sharp, the accidental of D is D sharp, the accidental of F is F sharp, the accidental of G is G sharp, and the accidental of A is A sharp. These 12 notes repeat to fill up the entire keyboard called octaves. In order to know what notes to use in a song, we use scales. Scales are organized in what we call the circle of fifths. The circle of fifths is a diagram that demonstrates us the relationship between the 12 different musical keys. It's a useful tool to remember how many sharps or flats a tonality has, to make it easier to transpose a song to a different key. The circle of fifths shows the harmonic distance between each tonality because it's separated in fourths and fifths. Now, let's look at the scale of C. The scale of C has 0 sharps. Let's look at the scale of G. The scale of G has 1 sharp, F sharp. The scale of D has 2 sharps, F sharp and C sharp. The scale of A has 3 sharps, F sharp, C sharp, and G sharp. The scale of E has 4 sharps, F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, and D sharp. The scale of B has 5 sharps, F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, D sharp, and A sharp. One easy way to remember this is using the acronym Fat Cats Go Down Alleys Eating Burritos. And if you see, there's a pattern where each scale just has 1 more sharp. The best way to unlock the formula for all the major scales is whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. A whole step has 2 semitones and a half step has 1 semitone. Now that you've got all the basic knowledge of music theory, let's look at the scale of C. The scale of C has 7 notes, which means we can make 7 chords. And these chords can be used in a song called chord progressions. The chords for this tone of C major is C major, D minor, E minor, F major, G major, A minor, and B diminished. These different sets of chords have different sets of emotions: happy, sad, or intense. If you can tell, the chords of C major, F major, and G major sound happy, and the chords of D minor, E minor, and A minor sound sad. And this strange chord, B diminished, has it more intense and dramatic. Now, for the moment you've all been waiting for, how to transform a boring chord progression to a more advanced one, here are some 5 quick few steps. Our simple chord progression is 1, 5, 6, 5, 4, 5, 1. But in the scale of C, it's C, G, A minor, G, F, G, C. So those are some pretty boring chord progressions, as you can see, but I'm going to show you how to improvise this simple chord progression. Our first step is to make a transition before we change the tonality of the song. For our transition, we're going to use our 4th chord of C, which is F major. Then, from that F major, we're going to use the 2-5-1 method. And it should now sound like this. This is where the tonality changes, but as you can see, it's only temporarily because we go back to our home root bass C. Step number 2. In order to make this sound more complicated, we're going to use voice leadings and inversions. An inversion is using the bottom root of the note and moving it up. This first and second inversion help us to minimize the movement of our hand positioning. Step number 3, we're going to use inverted pedal tones like augmented, 7th chords, and diminished chords. The augmented chord is using the 5th note, raising it up half a semitone. Now we're going to take the relative of the scale of C using the 6th note A minor to transition to our next step. To change the tonality of A minor, we have to play the 5th to add a 7th augmented chord, which should now sound like this. Now let's add a diminished chord. A diminished chord is taking the 3rd or 5th note and taking it down a half semitone. We're going to play our diminished chord after our transition to make this more dynamic and intense sound. Step number 4. This step we're going to chromatically move up from C to C sharp to D. This C sharp is going to be our F sharp minor half diminished. Since we walked up the scale, now we can bring it back down to our home root tonality of C major. Finally, our last and final step, we're going to smash in the chords together using the 4/5, which in this case, F over G, before we transition to our last and final chord, C major. Now that we added so many different improvements to our chord progression, we went from this to this more advanced professional chord progression. To wrap it all up, we learned the basic theory, the major scales, the circle of fifths, and also this chord progression that involved a quick few steps to make it sound more gospel-y. I hope this video gave you a better understanding of music theory and also encouraged you to learn more. Thank you for watching. Bye!